I just been dropped into the world of this novel. The housekeeper's son slapped himself across the face, then pointed a trembling finger at me, accusing me of hitting him. My two female bodyguards were already in my face, demanding answers. Caleb, just because we didn't camp out and watch the stars with you last night, this is what you do. How dare you lay a hand on Leo? Exactly. You get on your knees and apologize to him right now, or you'll have to deal with us. I had to laugh. These two were supposed to be my security detail, trained and employed by the Blackwell family since they were kids. And they really thought they were the ones in charge. I slapped both of them hard across the face. My voice was ice. When did the dogs start thinking they could snarl at their master? Mr. Sterling, I said, turning to the house manager. Our African mining operations are staffed exclusively by men. We can't be accused of gender discrimination, can we? Send these two ungrateful bitches over there. Immediately, a slow, deeply satisfied smile spread across Mr. Sterling's face. Right away, Mr. Blackwell. The two bodyguards just stared dumbfounded. This wasn't how the story was supposed to go. One seeing Chloe and Claire Pierce get hit. The housekeeper's son, Leo, scrambled to stand in front of them. Caleb, you can hit me, that's fine, but how could you hurt the sisters? He cried. I know this is all my fault. I shouldn't have called them back last night, just because I twisted my ankle. Listening to Leo's pathetic, manipulative sob story, I quickly replayed the novel's plot in my head. The original Caleb Blackwell was the sole heir to the entire Blackwell group, but he was a total doormat, the story's resident punching bag. Last night was his birthday. Chloe and Claire had suggested they all go camping in the countryside to celebrate. But just as they finished setting up the tents, they got a call from Leo. The second they heard he'd twisted his ankle, they both panicked, jumped in the car, and sped off, leaving Caleb completely alone in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't the first time they'd ditched him since his parents died in a car crash. There was the time the three of them were supposed to go to a concert. Caleb stood at the gate, tickets in hand, until the entire show was over. They never showed. No calls, no texts. He only found out what happened when he checked their Instagram feeds. They had spent the day at Disneyland with the housekeeper's son. A photo showed them on either side of Leo, arms linked, beaming. The caption read, "An amazing day with our favorite guy. At Leo Vance, hope you're always this happy." The comment section was filled with even more inside jokes and fawning replies, each one dripping with affection for Leo. Caleb had just stood there, alone in the vast, empty plaza after the crowds had cleared, the cold wind making him shiver as he clutched the crumpled tickets in his hand. When Caleb and Leo both caught COVID-19, the sisters spent 7 days and nights at Leo's bedside. They never once went to see Caleb. And last night, they'd taken the only car, leaving him behind without a second thought. Caleb was stranded in the dark, terrifying wilderness. He couldn't see a thing, and the woods were alive with the sounds of unseen animals and rustling leaves. Terrified, he knew he couldn't stay. He had to call the house manager, Mr. Sterling, to send a car to pick him up. By the time he got back to the Blackwell estate, the sun was rising, and the first person he ran into was the story's golden boy, Leo, wearing a smug, triumphant smirk. Without a word, Leo slapped himself and framed Caleb for it, which brought us to the opening scene. The Pierce sisters may have been Caleb's bodyguards, but they grew up with him. He'd always treated them like older sisters, never like employees. He'd never even spoken a harsh word to them, and now I had to slap them. Chloe and Claire were stunned, their eyes wide with disbelief. Caleb, you actually hit us? Chloe's voice trembled with rage. Just because we want to take care of Leo last night. Claire's eyes were dark with menace. Caleb, it looks like we've been way too easy on you. It's made you arrogant and entitled. Seeing his chance, Leo immediately dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. It's all my fault. Caleb, I'm the one who doesn't deserve their attention. Please don't take it out on them. He then started slapping himself, the sounds echoing in the cavernous hall. The sisters were heartbroken. They rushed to his side, each grabbing one of his hands. Claire pulled him into a hug. Enough. Caleb is the one who's acting like a spoiled brat. How could this possibly be your fault? Leo, you're just too kind. That's why he's always bullying you. Chloe fixed her glare on me. Caleb, get down on your knees and apologize to Leo right now. If you don't, we're done with you. Leo's eyes were red as he tugged on their sleeves. Claire, Chloe, Please don't fight with Caleb because of me. It's all my fault. I'm just the housekeeper's son. Chloe comforted him for a moment before turning her fury back to me. Caleb, are you deaf? I said, get on your knees. Leo shot me a look of pure triumph. My mind finally finished processing the book's plot. In the original story, these two backstabbers, along with Caleb's adopted sister and his fiancée, conspire to have him killed. The day after Caleb's wedding to his fiancée, Victoria Croft, the four of them lock him in the basement and torture him to death. After Caleb's death, Victoria, as his widow, inherits the entire multi-billion-dollar Blackwell fortune. She then signs it all over to the golden boy, Leo. Leo becomes the CEO of the Blackwell Group, and all four women become his personal harem. He gets his perfect, happily ever after ending. When I first read that ending, I was so disgusted I cursed the author out loud. And then, I woke up here. I looked at the two hypocrites who were still barking at me. A cold smirk touched my lips, and my voice cut through the air like a whip. Chloe and Claire Pierce, you two ungrateful traitors. You eat my food, you live in my house, and you were raised on my family's money. And now you, the help, have the audacity to demand that I, your employer, kneel to you? I turned to the house manager. Mr. Sterling, back in the old days, what would happen to insubordinate servants who couldn't tell master from staff? Mr. Sterling was an old-timer. He'd been with the family since before I was born and had watched me grow up. He had always been deeply disappointed in the original Caleb's weakness. Now, hear my question. His eyes lit up. He practically vibrated with excitement. Sir, servants like that would have been beaten to death without a second thought. I shook my head with mock regret. A pity they were born in a more civilized time. Let's just have them disciplined. Slap their faces. Don't stop until they remember their place. A smile of pure relief and satisfaction bloomed on Mr. Sterling's face. Yes, Mr. Blackwell. He'd been waiting for this. He couldn't stand how these two sisters had taken advantage of the young master's kindness, getting more and more arrogant. They acted like they were royalty, never giving him, the head of the household staff, the time of day. Now that the young master was finally laying down the law, he would back him 100%. Mr. Sterling gestured with his hand. 8 security guards from his own team immediately stepped forward. 4 grabbed Chloe and 4 grabbed Claire, pinning their arms behind their backs. What are you doing? Let us go, Chloe screamed, struggling furiously but unable to break free. Claire glared at me, her eyes practically shooting fire. Caleb, are you crazy? You wouldn't dare touch us. Crack. The response came from Mr. Sterling himself, who strode forward and delivered a resounding slap across her face. Is the young master's name something you can shout so casually? Mr. Sterling's face was grim. You have no discipline. The young master was kind to you, and you two dogs forgot who's the boss and who's the servant. Teach them. Don't stop until they learn the rules of this house. Slap, slap, slap. These 8 guards were tough, handpicked by Sterling. They followed orders without hesitation and had zero qualms about hitting a woman. The great hall filled with the relentless, sharp sound of slapping. They had never been humiliated like this in their lives. First came the shock, then a tidal wave of uncontrollable rage and shame. Caleb, if you do this to us, we'll never speak to you again. Caleb, you bastard. Stop it. Just wait until your sister gets home. Isabel, my adopted sister, please. She was family name only. No matter how much they struggled or screamed, it was useless. It only earned them harder slaps. The pain slowly brought them to their senses. The look in their eyes shifted from shock and rage to a dawning, primal fear. Caleb, please. Stop. We won't make you apologize, okay? Watching their faces swell up, blood trickling from the corners of their mouths, Leo stood frozen to the spot. This was completely wrong. According to the script, Caleb should be panicking right now, trying desperately to explain himself, maybe even offering them expensive gifts to make up for it. But this cold-faced Caleb, having them publicly disciplined, a flicker of panic shot through Leo's heart. But he was quick. He scrambled over and threw himself at my feet, his voice choked with sobs. Caleb, please no, it's all my fault. Please let Chloe and Claire go. Stop hitting them. The housekeeper, Mrs. Vance, also rushed over and knelt before me, pleading, Young master, please stop. If Miss Isabel comes home and sees this, she'll never let you hear the end of it. My eyes fell to her wrist and the diamond bracelet glittering there. That bracelet was worth over $15 million. It had been one of my mother's most prized possessions, and now it was on the wrist of her housekeeper. It seemed she'd gotten a little too comfortable, started thinking of herself as the lady of the house. Interesting. I spoke calmly. Mrs. Vance, if I remember correctly, that bracelet on your wrist was my mother's. I'm just curious how it ended up there. My father won that piece for her in a record-breaking bidding war at Sotheby's. It's worth $15 million. All the receipts and appraisal documents are on file. You certainly have good taste. What? $15 million? The other maids, who had been watching from the sidelines, gasped. Mrs. Vance, how could she? Oh my God, she's a thief. How could she dare steal something so valuable? That was the mistress's. None of her jewelry was cheap. Mrs. Vance went pale. She never imagined that, by speaking up for her son, she would end up implicating herself. She quickly tried to hide the bracelet, her eyes wide with terror, before bursting into loud, theatrical sobs. Young master, I was wrong. I had no idea it was so valuable. I was just borrowing it to wear for a bit. For the sake of all the years I've served you, please forgive me this one time. I'll never do it again. I ignored her and turned to the house manager. Mr. Sterling, have some men search Mrs. Vance's room. See what else she's borrowed. A hard glint appeared in Sterling's eyes. He bowed. Yes, Mr. Blackwell. I've suspected for some time that her hands weren't clean. It's just that before. He trailed off, but his meaning was clear. The old Caleb was too much of a pushover. He let the staff walk all over him. Even if Sterling had brought it up before, the old Caleb would have just brushed it off, making Sterling look like the bad guy. It wasn't worth the trouble. But now, seeing the master's transformation, he stood up a little straighter. With a wave of his hand, two guards moved forward. Ignoring Mrs. Vance's wails and struggles, they restrained her and held her to the side. Several others headed quickly towards her living quarters. The scene was so shocking that Chloe and Claire, who were still being disciplined, momentarily forgot the pain in their faces. They just stared in stunned silence. Leo's face was as white as a sheet. He knew his mother took things from the Blackwells. He even knew she secretly sold off smaller, less noticeable items to give him extra money. He'd even encouraged it. He just never thought that after Mrs. Blackwell died, his mother would get bold enough to take a $15 million bracelet. And he never, ever thought Caleb would expose it all in front of everyone. Caleb, don't. My mom just got confused for a moment. She served your family for so many years. She may not have any great achievements, but she's worked hard, right? Leo lunged forward to grab my legs, but I kicked him away. You little bastard, I sneered. She gets a little credit for hard work, so she thinks she can steal millions in property from her employer, and she raises a son who thinks he can brazenly frame the master of the house and turn his staff against him. Just then, the guards returned from their search. They placed an exquisite jewelry box on the table, along with a collection of designer handbags and clothes. Sir, Mr. Sterling, we found these in a box under Mrs. Vance's bed. A guard opened the jewelry box. Inside were several other valuable pieces, including a limited edition designer watch. Mr. Sterling picked up an imperial jade necklace, his face turning purple with rage. This necklace, the mistress wore this all the time. And this watch, this was one of the master's prized collectibles. The more he looked, the angrier he got, his eyes burning. That damned woman. The Blackwells have been nothing but generous to you and your son, and this is how you repay them. You're worse than animals. The evidence was irrefutable. The room erupted in murmurs. The other staff members had resented Mrs. Vance for a long time, especially after the mistress died. She acted like she owned the place, all because her son was everyone's favorite. She didn't do any work, spent her days looking down her nose at the rest of them, and would berate them for the slightest perceived offense. They had been bottling up their anger for years. Seeing her downfall was incredibly satisfying. My God, she stole so much. What a classic case of biting the hand that feeds you. The mistress was so good to her, treated her son like he was her own, and she turns around and steals her things after she dies. Unbelievable. Mrs. Vance collapsed to the floor, her eyes vacant with despair. I glanced at the stolen goods. I sneered internally. The original Caleb really was blind and stupid to have been played so easily by this mother-son duo. Mr. Sterling, call the police, I said, my voice cold and hard. Give them all the evidence. I want her prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. No, don't call the police, young master. Mrs. Vance finally snapped out of it, scrambling on her hands and knees toward me, banging her head on the floor. I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Please. For all the years I serve this family, please forgive me just this once. I'll give everything back. It's all here. I swear there's nothing else. Leo panicked. If the police got involved, his mother's life was over. He would never be able to hold his head high in this house again. He rushed forward and started begging alongside her. Caleb, it was my fault. I shouldn't have provoked you. Punish me. You can do anything you want me. Just don't call the police. I looked down at them, my eyes full of mockery. Don't call me that. You're the housekeeper's son. You don't have the right. Now you know how to beg. When your mother was stealing my family's property, when you were setting me up, did you ever stop to think about the consequences? It's too late. Mr. Sterling, get them out of my sight. The nerve of these people. The house manager waved his hand. Guards stepped forward and began to drag them away to await the police. Mrs. Vance started screaming like a pig being slaughtered. One of the guards backhanded her, and she finally shut up. Leo cried out, trying to reach for his mother, but a guard shoved him back forcefully. Just then, a sharp, angry voice cut through the chaos from the entrance. Everyone, stop this right now. I looked up to see a young woman in a designer power suit striding into the hall. Her makeup was perfect, her expression as cold as ice. It was the Blackwells' adopted daughter, my nominal older sister, Isabel Blackwell. She was supposed to be at a major business conference right now. Clearly, someone had called her, and she'd rushed back. The first thing she saw was the chaotic scene. Mrs. Vance and Leo being dragged away, the Pierce sisters held to the side with swollen, red faces. Her perfectly sculpted eyebrows shot up, and she glared at me. Caleb, what in the world do you think you're doing? Her eyes were sharp, filled with undisguised disgust and blame. Throwing the whole house into chaos first thing in the morning? I guess I've been too lenient with you, letting you get so out of control. Now, tell them to let Mrs. Vance and Leo go right now. The guards hesitated, looking at each other, unsure of what to do. The Pierce sisters and the Vances saw Isabel, and their eyes lit up. Leo started wailing, Isabel, help me. It was as if their savior had arrived. They all started crying and recounting my supposed tyranny. Let them go. I laughed as if I just heard the world's greatest joke. A thief who stole over $15 million in property from this family, and her son who conspired to frame the master of the house. Why in the world would I let them go? Who do you think you are? Isabel was taken aback, clearly not understanding the full situation. What nonsense are you talking about? At that moment, Mr. Sterling stepped forward and spoke respectfully. Miss Blackwell, the young master is not speaking nonsense. The evidence is conclusive. We found a large quantity of the late mistress's jewelry and the master's watches in Mrs. Vance's room. The total value is close to $20 million. We have her dead to rights. The young master was just preparing to hand the matter over to the police. Isabel looked at the priceless items Mr. Sterling held out, then at the guilty expressions on the faces of Mrs. Vance and Leo. Her own face paled. She was momentarily speechless, but quickly turned her anger back on me. Even if Mrs. Vance made a mistake, couldn't you handle this privately? Do you have to make a public spectacle and drag the Blackwell family name through the mud? Then she pointed an accusing finger at Chloe and Claire. And what about them? What did Chloe and Claire do that was so wrong? Why would you humiliate them like this? They're your security detail. You're completely out of control. Out of control? My gaze turned arctic. These two dogs eat the Blackwell's food and take the Blackwell's money, but their loyalty is to the housekeeper's son. They try to intimidate me, the head of this household, and force me to kneel and apologize to a servant child. Tell me, Isabel, who is the one that's out of control here? Me or them for their outrageous insubordination? You. Isabel's chest heaved with fury. If they told you to kneel and apologize, then you should have just done it. If you didn't bully Leo all the time, would they have needed to force you? If you were half as decent as he is, they never would have treated you that way. I slapped her across the face. The crisp sound echoed through the mansion's great hall. Isabel, maybe you need a reminder of your place in this house. You are the adopted daughter. A charity case my family took in. My parents were kind enough to give you a life of luxury and a good name. They didn't do it so you could lose all sense of judgment and stand here lecturing me, the sole heir to the Blackwell fortune. This family's name is Blackwell. It's not your place to tell me what to do. My words hit like thunderclaps detonating in the hall. Everyone was stunned, including Isabel herself. She stared at me, her face turning a ghastly shade of purple. Rage, humiliation, and the panic of having her adopted status thrown in her face in front of everyone all swirled together. The one thing she couldn't stand was people mentioning she was adopted. The old Caleb would have never dared. Now, not only had I said it, but I'd hit her. You. She pointed a trembling finger at me, unable to form a complete sentence. Finally, she grit her teeth. Fine, just fine. Her furious eyes held a clear threat. I'm the CEO of the Blackwell Group now. As of this moment, you are banned from setting foot in the corporate headquarters ever again. I thought I must have misheard her. Was this novel really this illogical? Ban me from my own company. I pulled out my phone, brought up the digital copies of my father's will and the stock inheritance agreement, and shoved the screen in her face. Isabel, open your eyes and take a good look. I am the sole heir and the majority shareholder of the Blackwell Group. Firing you as CEO is as simple as me saying the words. Banned from the company. Are you insane, or am I? I turned to the house manager, my voice sharp. Mr. Sterling, contact Keith in the executive office and the board of directors. Effective immediately, Isabel Blackwell is terminated from all positions within the Blackwell Group. Issue a press release announcing that I will be assuming the role of CEO myself. Hearing this, Mr. Sterling's eyes shone. He looked so gratified he might actually cry. Yes, Mr. Blackwell, I'll do it right now. He had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Miss Isabel had been filling the company with her own people and pushing out the loyal old guard, causing widespread resentment. Now, the young master was finally taking back control. He immediately took out his phone, his voice booming with authority as he contacted the executive assistant and the board members. Mr. Sterling was a pillar of the Blackwell family. He'd been there since my grandfather's time, serving him and my father. The last few years of watching the original Caleb had been torture for him. Now, his tone regained all of its former strength and decisiveness. Isabel was completely floored. She saw the legally binding documents on my phone. She heard Mr. Sterling decisively carrying out my orders. A bone-deep chill shot up from her feet and seized her brain. No, don't. You can't do this. Isabel shrieked. Her carefully constructed facade of cool arrogance shattered completely, replaced by pure, unadulterated panic. The company is in the middle of a critical transition. I'm personally overseeing several major projects that have been in the works for years. You can't fire me. What if something goes wrong with the company? How could you face mom and dad? Still trying to use the company to blackmail me. I looked at her with pure scorn. Losses? You mean like Dr. Evelyn Reed, the VP with dual doctorates in economics and law from Yale? The woman who took a company on the brink of bankruptcy and turned it into an industry leader. You demoted her. Why? Because she complained that you kept leaving important business meetings early to go hang out with your boy toy. Leo? In terms of business acumen, who do you think is more qualified? Her, or a hack from second-rate college like you? Keeping you in the CEO's chair is the biggest liability the Blackwell Group has. I paused, looking at her with contempt. This is my family's company. I will handle it myself. I don't need an outsider who bites the hand that feeds her worrying about it. The word outsider was a knife that twisted in her heart, shredding the last of her defenses. Her face went deathly pale. She nearly collapsed. Her greatest source of power and pride, her position as CEO of the Blackwell Group, had just been stripped away by the pathetic little brother she had always looked down on. The surrounding maids and security guards didn't dare breathe. They were utterly shell-shocked. Today, the young master hadn't just dealt with his bodyguards and a thieving housekeeper. He'd even taken down the high and mighty Miss Isabel, slapped her, and fired her without a second thought. This was earth-shattering. Now Leo and the Pierce sisters were the ones who looked completely lost. The biggest patron they had, their shield, had just fallen. Their eyes were filled with terror and despair. No, Caleb, you can't. Isabel tried to argue, her voice now pleading. I didn't even bother looking at her. I added an instruction for Mr. Sterling, who was still on the phone. And Sterling, notify corporate security. Immediately revoke all of Ms. Blackwell's office keys and access cards. Give her 24 hours to clear out her personal belongings. After that, anything left will be thrown out with the trash. Yes, sir. Isabel was now completely hopeless. She looked at my cold profile and finally understood. The man standing before her was no longer the weak, malleable little brother she could control. All of her status, her power, her pride. In that one moment, I had crushed it all into dust. She was finally scared. She rushed forward to grab me. Brother, I was wrong. You can't do this to me. I'm your sister. I turned and patted her cheek condescendingly. Oh, my sister. Remember when Leo accused me of pushing him down the stairs? I begged you to check the security cameras, and you said it wasn't necessary? You locked me in the basement for 3 days and 3 nights. That was you, wasn't it? And just because Leo wanted to try dog meat, you ordered them to kill and cook the golden retriever I'd had for 3.5 years. That was you too, right? And just a few minutes ago, didn't you say that if they wanted me to kneel, I should just kneel? Now you remember you're my sister. Where's your shame? Every question was a hammer blow, striking Isabel right in the heart. Her face was bloodless, her lips trembled, but she couldn't refute a single word. The contemptuous stares of everyone in the room were worse than any physical punishment. She lunged for me again, tears streaming down her face. I was wrong. Caleb, it was my fault. I'll make it up to you, I swear. Her tears just made me sick. You're not sorry. You're just scared. I stopped looking at her and gave my final order to Sterling. Mr. Sterling, lock Miss Blackwell in the basement. No one is to let her out without my permission. And in 24 hours, I don't want to see a single one of her belongings in any Blackwell family property. Yes, Mr. Blackwell. 2 guards immediately moved in and seized Isabel by the arms. No, Caleb, you can't do this. I'm a young lady of this house. Isabel struggled, her voice thick with despair. 12 at that moment, another cold voice rang out. Caleb, what is all this drama about today? Isabel is your sister. How could you treat her like that? The newcomer was the original Caleb's fiancée, Victoria Croft. I had to laugh. The entire fan club was here today all for Leo. How interesting. Leo saw her, and it was like he'd found another savior. He started sobbing loudly. Victoria, Caleb's calling the cops on my mom, and he's going to lock Isabel in the basement. You have to talk to him. Victoria walked up to me, her brow furrowed slightly. Caleb, are you just jealous that we're nice to Leo? Did you really have to take it this far? Let Isabel go apologize to Mrs. Vance and Leo, and we can all just move on from this. She saw my stony silence and softened her tone. Come on, stop making a scene. You need to be more magnanimous. That's the only way I'll ever like you, you know? I slapped her clean across the face. Magnanimous my ass. The motion was swift and merciless. Victoria clutched her reddening cheek, her eyes wide with sheer disbelief. She probably never imagined that I, the fiancé who had always been at her beck and call, would ever hit her in public. The hall fell silent again. Everyone stared completely stunned. They all knew how the old Caleb had treated Victoria's words like gospel. And now he just slapped her. How was this possible? Victoria had been put on a pedestal for too long. After a moment of shock, her face contorted with fury. Caleb, you dare hit me. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm telling you right now, if you don't get on your knees and beg for my forgiveness, this is not over. Her ridiculous, melodramatic threat was so absurd I laughed out loud. Forgive my ass. I slapped her again on the other cheek. Victoria, who gave you the right? 5 years ago, you and your mother were in a horrific car accident. A sports car hit you and sent you flying. Your mother died on impact. The car was on fire. You were trapped in the driver's seat, about to die. Have you forgotten who risked his own life to pull you out of the wreckage? The memory finally seemed to break through. She remembered that day. Just 3 seconds after I had dragged her out, the car exploded in a massive fireball. If it wasn't for me, she would be dead. It was after that incident that the original Caleb, seeing how beautiful and pitiably fragile she was, began to pursue her relentlessly. It was only later he discovered she was the illegitimate daughter of the Croft family. Because of his attention, the Crofts were forced to acknowledge her, even making her a candidate to inherit the family business. For 5 years, Caleb had been completely devoted to her, and she had spent that entire time fawning over the housekeeper's son. Before my mother died, she gave Victoria the Blackwell family heirloom, a jade bangle passed down through generations. The very next day, that bangle was on Leo's wrist. The original Caleb, furious, tried to get it back, but Leo accidentally dropped and shattered it. And Victoria's response then was the same as now. She told Caleb to be more magnanimous. The old Caleb could tolerate it. I couldn't. Not for a second. I reached out and slowly patted her cheek, the gesture dripping with humiliation. Victoria, you're an illegitimate child. Why do you think you were ever in the running to take over the Croft family business? 5 years ago, Croft Industries was on the verge of collapse. Who do you think bailed it out? You know the answer. If you had just behaved and been a good little girl, I might have thrown you a bone. But you demand that I be magnanimous? That I kneel and apologize to you? I turned to Mr. Sterling. Sterling, have Keith issue an official statement from the company website. Announce that due to Victoria Croft's poor character, the Blackwell Group is unilaterally terminating our engagement and canceling all business partnerships with Croft Industries. Do it now. Mr. Sterling's face flushed with excitement. The young master had finally woken up. He was no longer the pathetic simp he used to be. Tears of gratification almost welled in his eyes. Yes, Mr. Blackwell. I'll notify Keith immediately. He pulled out his phone again, his voice firm as he relayed the new set of orders. Victoria's face went white. She staggered back a step, her voice a shrill cry. No, Caleb, you can't. The engagement was an agreement between our two families. You can't just cancel it, and the partnerships. All those projects. An agreement? I sneered at her. An agreement with an ungrateful, morally bankrupt, illegitimate daughter. The Blackwell family has more self-respect than that. I took a step closer, my eyes like daggers. As for the partnerships, Victoria, your family has been surviving by sucking the blood of the Blackwell Group for years just to maintain the illusion of success. And now, I'm simply not willing to be your blood bank anymore. Understand? A chill ran down Victoria's spine. She finally realized I wasn't the same person. Without the Blackwell Group's contracts and financial support, Croft Industries was nothing. The moment we pulled out, their other partners would drop them in a heartbeat to avoid offending us. The Croft family would be facing bankruptcy in no time. And she, the one responsible for this disaster, an illegitimate daughter with no real foundation of support, would face a fate she couldn't even imagine. She was terrified. She dropped to her knees with a thud and crawled toward me, grabbing the cuff of my pants. Caleb, I was wrong. I'll never do it again. Please, just give me one more chance, please. A chance? I looked down at her, my expression unmoved. Victoria, weren't you the one just telling me to kneel and be magnanimous? A little late to be sorry, don't you think? My tone was final, leaving no room for negotiation. The moment you let Leo shatter my mother's heirloom, your chances were gone. The moment you and the others started treating me like a fool, the only thing left between us was a final reckoning. Victoria, I could pull you back from the gates of hell, and I can just as easily kick you right back in. Victoria met my icy gaze and flinched. I was wrong. Caleb, please don't abandon me. Just treat me like a dog. I'll never be like I was before. She sobbed, reaching for me again. I kicked her hand away. My eyes held no pity. Victoria, let me tell you one more thing. The person who hit your mother's car 5 years ago, it was the same person you treasure so dearly. And Isabel was sitting in the passenger seat. She's the one who helped get rid of the car. Don't believe me? Ask her. Leo and Isabel's faces changed instantly. My words were like a bomb, obliterating the last bit of sound in the hall. Every single person's gaze snapped to the suddenly pale faces of Leo and Isabel. Victoria's head shot up. Her eyes were filled with utter shock and disbelief. She was the illegitimate daughter of the Croft family. She and her mother had relied on each other her entire life. Her mother had nearly died giving birth to her. Growing up, her mother had cherished her, always giving her the best of everything, never letting her suffer the slightest hardship. Her mother was the most important person in her life. Victoria stared at me as if she hadn't heard correctly, as if her mind simply refused to process the information. Her pupils dilated. Her lips trembled as she repeated the words. What? What did you say? The one who killed my mother was Leo. Isabel, still held by the guards, shrieked, her face ashen. Caleb, you're lying. You're just trying to slander him. Victoria, don't listen to him. He's just trying to turn us against each other. Back then, all the evidence. Hearing Isabel about to spill the beans, Leo, terrified, quickly cut her off. No, it wasn't me. Victoria, you have to believe me. Caleb is framing me. He just doesn't want you to be nice to me. Their frantic reactions, the desperate edge in their voices, the sheer panic in their eyes. It was all the confirmation anyone needed. Any fool could see they were guilty. Is it true? Victoria's voice was a raw, distorted whisper. She slowly got to her feet, her eyes locked on Leo and Isabel. The look she gave them was murderous. Look at me. Answer me, was it you? No, it wasn't. Victoria, let me explain. Leo tried to argue, but under her death glare, his voice grew smaller and smaller. He couldn't meet her gaze. What more did she need to know? Isabel was panicking too, babbling nonsense. Victoria, don't listen to him. He's gone crazy. This is his revenge on us. Yes. That's it. It's revenge. You need to calm down. Calm down. A horrifyingly cold laugh escaped Victoria's lips. Ha ha. Calm down. How am I supposed to calm down? I never had a father. My mother raised me all by herself. You killed my mother, and then you played me for a fool all these years, and you wanted to be calm. Her head snapped toward Leo. All the affection and warmth in her eyes was gone, replaced by a bottomless well of disgust and pure hatred. I treated you, a murderer, like a treasure, and for you, I hurt the man who saved my life, over and over again. For you, I've now lost everything. She then whipped her head around to look at Isabel, her teeth clenched. And you, Isabel Blackwell, I trusted you. I treated you like my own sister, and you helped this murder cover it up? You are all monsters, worse than animals. The intense rage and sense of betrayal finally made Victoria snap. She let out a blood-curdling scream, snatched a fruit knife from the coffee table, and launched herself at Leo. You goddamn murderer. You lied to me. You lied to me for years. Give me back my mother. Her bloodshot eyes burned with a desire to destroy everything. She stabbed him in the chest again and again, 13 times. In that moment, what was love? What was a golden boy? It was all just the sickest joke. It happened too fast. No one expected Victoria to lose her mind and attack him with such brutal, vicious intent. By the time the guards rushed forward to restrain her, Leo's chest was a mangled, bloody mess. He collapsed to the floor, his body convulsed a few times, and then went still. The thick, coppery smell of blood filled the hall. The entire mansion erupted in terrified screams. Mrs. Vance cradled Leo's body, howling in despair. Leo, my boy, wake up. Look at mommy. Please, somebody call 911. Call the police. The Pierce sisters and Isabel stared at the lifeless body of their golden boy, their eyes vacant and lost. It was as if their entire world had collapsed with his death. Victoria was disarmed and pinned to the floor by the guards. She looked at Leo's corpse and began to laugh, a wild, unhinged sound. I watched the whole bloody drama unfold with a cold detachment. Leo, the group-pampered protagonist, was ultimately killed by his most devoted follower. It was ironic, but it was also exactly what he deserved. The police finally arrived. I had Mr. Sterling hand over the security footage as evidence. Victoria, Isabel, and Mrs. Vance were all taken into custody. Mrs. Vance's theft involved nearly $20 million. She wouldn't be getting out for a very long time. Isabel, besides covering up a hit-and-run and destroying evidence, had also used her position as CEO to illegally transfer company assets to a shell corporation for Leo. The amount was substantial. She was going to prison for life. That just left the Pierce sisters, kneeling on the floor, begging for their lives. Mr. Blackwell, we know we were wrong. Please, just give us one more chance. Sir, We were foolish. We'll never do it again. We'll be loyal to you from now on, we swear. I looked at their terrified faces without a shred of pity. Mr. Sterling, about our mining operations in Africa. I believe they're all staffed by men. A major multinational corporation like ours can't be seen to be engaging in gender discrimination. These two are still under contract. Have them sent over immediately. They can be in charge of protecting the male miner's safety. A deeply satisfied smile returned to Mr. Sterling's face. Yes, Mr. Blackwell. No matter how much the Pierce sisters screamed and struggled, they were dragged away. Finally, the world was quiet. Ding! Congratulations, host, for binding with the ultimate villain system. By successfully eliminating the world's group-pampered protagonist, you can now choose to return to your original world at any time, taking all the wealth you have acquired here with you. Come, let the system teach you how to resolve this crisis and crush the protagonist. Method 1. I swore under my breath. System, are you fucking kidding me? I already finished the mission, and you're only showing up now? The system seemed to glitch for 3 seconds. What? It's finished already. Me get lost. System, roger that. The end.